Welcome to this edition of the Purity Post, a short video blog to help you understand and apply biblical truth regarding sexuality. My name is Jonathan Daugherty, and I'm the director of Be Broken Ministries, a national outreach whose mission is healing sexual brokenness by God's grace, one story at a time. We're in part 2 of a 3-part series entitled The Brain on Sex, taking a closer look at the neurobiology of sex and how this actually lines up with a biblical understanding of sexuality. Last post, we touched on just the effects of certain chemicals in our brains that are connected to sexuality. This post, we want to look more specifically at what effect pornography has on the brain. In other words, what happens when the sexual areas of our brain are overstimulated? I owe most of what I'm going to share to Dr. William Struthers and a talk he gave at the Convergence Summit in 2011, presented by Pure Hope and the Religious Alliance Against Pornography. Dr. Struthers asserts that, quote, pornography actually rapes the brain, end quote. Let's unpack that. There are some key areas of the brain that are aroused in response to viewing pornography. There's increased activation in the visual cortex, but interestingly, it's heightened more intensely by looking at porn versus, let's say, watching a sporting event. The hypothalamus is charged up, that part of your brain that's responsible for primary drives like eating, drinking, and sex. Anterior cingulate cortex regions, the areas involved in regulating gonadal and adrenal secretions, are also activated. Now, this is also an area of the brain in which high activity can indicate obsessive-compulsive tendencies. On a personal note, this has been an overactive area of my brain for years that's now much healthier as a result of dietary changes and intake of appropriate supplements, and not viewing pornography. The bottom line is that pornography triggers hormonal events. This is why when a child is exposed to porn, the biological responses that occur in his brain can be explained as a sort of rape, forcing this child to experience hormonal activity that he's unprepared to handle. The trauma of rape is not only physical assault, it can also be this involuntary biological overload in the brain that occurs when exposed to porn. Now, 2 regions that light up off the charts when viewing porn is the hypothalamus and the amygdala. The amygdala is the negative emotional center of the brain. So when a person gets aroused or excited or stressed, this region is very active. Now, in men, this is often interpreted as sexual tension. In women, it generally produces a response of disgust or fear. Clearly, the biological responses in the brain caused by viewing porn are not positive or conducive for building strong emotional relationships. You have a man growing more sexually frustrated and tense from porn, and a woman growing increasingly disgusted and fearful of sexual acts. Porn is raping and warping their minds. Now, as we explored in the last post, there are also bonding chemicals released when we are sexually aroused. Ideally, God designed these chemicals to help a husband and a wife bond to one another through regular sexual interactions in their marriage. But if a person is being regularly stimulated by pornography, releasing all these same chemicals when they arouse their sexuality, they are in fact being bonded to the porn. Now, apart from the obvious danger of damaging your brain through overstimulation of certain regions, to the detriment of other regions not being stimulated enough, there's the added trouble of becoming more and more conditioned to only respond and connect to an unreal world of fantasy rather than being fully engaged and connected in real relationships. Pornography addiction is about more than just a bad habit. It affects our entire being, emotionally, spiritually, and biologically. This is why recovery from porn addiction is so difficult, especially when only one part of our being is being addressed. Counselors tend to focus on the emotional, pastors on the spiritual, and neurologists on the biological. God wants our entire being healed, so we must not be afraid to explore the biological effects of porn on our brains. Let us take care of the body God gave us. You can no longer claim ignorance regarding what viewing pornography does to your brain. So begin today to reverse the damage by removing yourself from any porn, TV, internet, text messages, whatever avenues you travel to access it. Plug in with some accountability and support. Treat your body, your brain, as the gift that it is. And next post, we'll wrap up this series with some insights into bringing balance to your brain and understanding what the Apostle Paul meant when he wrote, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Thanks for watching this edition of the Purity Post. If you'd like more resources, please visit BeBroken.com or call our toll-free number at 1-800-49-PURITY. Keep pressing on.